Hey there, welcome back to Owl Dragon Adventures. I'm Scott Kegler.
And I'm Rob McPherson.
And this is our multiplayer review for Burncycle by Chip Theory Games. Alright, so as I mentioned, this is our multiplayer review. Rob actually already did a solo review, which is on our channel, so definitely check that out if you're if you're a solo player and you are just looking for the versatility of this game. It's a great kind of jumping off point for us.
Yeah, I will say with my history with Chip Theory Games, I actually bought this fully intending to play it mostly solo, which I have, but we've also enjoyed it multiplayer several times now.
Absolutely. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the game?
Yeah, sure. So Burncycle is it's a futuristic game where where civilization has collapsed after we have invented AI. All humans have gone extinct, and the robot civilization continued and thrived. Then several hundred years later, the robots decided to be benevolent, and they resuscitated humans, and they took the minds of the last powerful humans on Earth and implanted them into these new bodies, which of course were the CEOs of mega corporations. So that didn't go poorly at all for them. No. So they were immediately, as soon as the humans came back, they enslaved all of the robots, put this programming into them, and now a robot resistance has risen up, and that's where you come in. You're playing as the robot resistance. You're diving through, I believe they call this I think it's a corporate crawler, or a business crawler or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But basically, it's a stealth game. You're moving through different corporation levels with different objectives, be it hacking into their terminals, stealing things from them, just causing havoc and chaos. But the real focus most of the time is on stealth. There's the two different types of the gameplay. There's the gameplay where you're kind of going through the actual building, and then there's also the time when you're actually hacking through the network.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of a dungeon crawler, right? It's a corporate crawler. Yeah. Dungeon crawler with it made me think of, thematically, even the art a little bit, was the Animatrix when that came out.
100%.
It was some of the side stories there which were arguably sometimes more interesting than the Matrix movies, but
I don't think arguably.
Fair enough. So really, yeah, that's a great sci-fi dungeon crawly type game where combat is not the entirety of the game,
which totally broke Sean's head the first time we played.
One of our players, my brother. So excellent, thank you for that overview.
Yeah.
So we'll jump right into gameplay on this, and I'll start us off on gameplay. I've only played it multiplayer. It's definitely a good amount of, like any Chip Theory game, which we'll talk about, but it took a little bit of barrier to entry.
Yes.
But once we got into it, this like the second or third time with you, where I was really enjoying the gameplay style. If you like to, I like tactics. If you like tactics, I think there's a lot in the gameplay here for that. Tactical movement, action economy, figuring out how to get through it. This is not a run up and swing a sword at something.
Version of action planning.
Yeah. A bit of that. So it's the gameplay is there's a good amount. All the brain burn is in that tactics piece, I find.
Yeah.
And figuring out what I like to do in a game like this, since there are, I don't know, 10 or 15 different bots that you can play.
There's 16. I will put that
down
here as soon as
all the different bots have asymmetrical power. So what I like about it is finding the different bots and gaming that part of it and finding out. So there's really, if you like that, I get you really enjoying that part of Burncycle where, for instance, there's a robot that is called Interface, I think.
Yep.
And his whole thing is he can disguise himself as the sentry bots or the guard bots in there. And there's ways to kind of game that if you're clever, where you can be use it for its intended purpose, but if you know tactics on the board, we had a lot of fun with that.
That was a blast. So where do you lie?
For gameplay, for me, it is definitely a high gameplay. I really enjoyed it, especially the second, third time into the game. I was really finding all of the nuance to it. So
yeah, I got to agree. It's going to be a high gameplay for me.
Excellent. So that is our overview of gameplay.
So next up is accessibility. So I feel like with Chip Theory games, this is how we're always going to lie. We're very biased with Chip Theory. I will admit that right off the bat, but accessibility's got to be a low. I'll say a low to mid because this is more accessible than Cloudspire and Too Many Bones for sure. But it's a beast.
Yeah, and I would only say that because while there is asymmetry, as I mentioned during the gameplay, there is only really 2 or 3 things that separate each bot. So you have a flavor of 2 or 3 things you have versus Too Many Bones. There's 16 dice that all affect my character differently
Yep.
in Too Many Bones. Where like this one, I would agree with you. Like it's always I know no disrespect to Chip's theory, but yeah, like
so one thing that I will say that they did do in this one, which was really nice, is that there's an entire intro mission that you go through that walks you through every step, which does help with the accessibility. But if you're a new gamer, that's not even going to be enough. It's a beast. There's no two ways around it. It's one of the heaviest games in my collection.
And I would say the hardest part of the game is honestly not the bots or even navigating the map. It's getting your head around the network part of the game.
Yes.
Is probably the hardest part of the game.
Yeah, the first time we played it multiplayer, I had played it solo about a half dozen times before that. I didn't even let anyone else deal with it. I'm like, I'll handle this part, guys. I'll have you chip in when I need your flavor that you want to add to what you want to do. But other than that, I'll just do the mechanics.
So that's low for me as well on accessibility, unfortunately. Yep. Next, we have design. And as I had mentioned, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Animatrix and like the style of it. I really liked it. I liked the art on all of the different bots in the game. The layouts of the levels of the corporations when you're going through a building works very well for me. I really liked a lot of just all the different design elements in the game. With Chip Theory, everything's very slick looking and everything's very easy to read, if not understand. But everything
ties together nicely thematically. Like all of the components look like they're part of the same universe, not just the same game.
And I loved, with a couple of rare exceptions, I really loved it's not in the base game, it's an expansion, the brass miniatures.
Oh yeah.
I loved like 95% of them.
Yes.
Like there's like one or two that don't quite fit the
poses
art.
Are weird.
The poses don't quite fit the art on the card, but overall, like their miniatures are fantastic
and totally worth the extra money. I mean, I'm not even just saying that as a bespoke gamer. They do add some gameplay value to it as well. But yeah,
visually, yeah, especially because if you don't play a lot of Chip Theory, or if this is your first Chip Theory, sometimes just getting used to the chip as a player character. I'm like, I would love to see more miniature stuff and like give me some miniatures for Too Many Bones or something like that. Yeah,
I will give you all my money.
Like so. Chip Theory, if you had to watch this video,
you got customers.
I would gladly pay money for Too Many Bone miniatures like this game. But anyways, so I will have to say a high on design for me for the game.
Yeah, it's got to be a high on design. Absolutely.
I mean, you can see the game box. It's very pretty.
Yep. Quality. We've said it before and I'll say it again. This was in my solo video as well. So if you saw that first, there are no game companies out there that do quality like that, like Chip Theory games. There's a few that come very close, but you're paying for it too. But all of the mats are neoprene. There's cutouts in the neoprene. There's little holes to put the pegs into. There's places to put the dice when you acquire them. The maps are all neoprene, little neoprene layers that you put on top. They're thinner neoprene, but they're still neoprene. All of the cards are up there. Their signature plastic cards. They've got the full resin chips with the metal inserts for not only in this game, not only for the extra weight, but those brass mags we mentioned also have magnets in them, so you actually stick it to the chips, so you don't have to worry about getting mixed up or anything like that. The dice are great quality. Again, I think the only thing I ever ding them for on the dice is that they're silk screened and they're not engraved. But that's such a minor squabble.
Yeah, and again, the only quality thing is I think they should have, and this might be actually a design thing. I don't know where I would fall in my complaint here. Is there's a couple of the dice that should be a different color.
Yes. Yeah. The Burncycle die, the die that you roll at the end of each turn to degrade the Burncycle, which is basically you make it so it's harder to take actions the next turn, is the same color or very close colored to one of the action die that you roll every turn. So they get mixed up very easily. It could have been easily I think we determined red would probably have been
any
best.
color. Or even you could have kept it yellow but had a red box shape around the dice, like some different design.
Yeah, so that's probably a little design quabble.
Quabble. So So for overall though, high quality for me.
100% high quality. Yep.
That brings us to value, which easy for me because I didn't buy the game. Rob, you got like a late pledge or pre-order?
Yeah, I did a pre-order off their site, which I think was a little bit more expensive than the Kickstarter. Yeah, but not too much.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a Chip Theory game. So I mean, I think the base game is like $150.
Yes.
which is, I think all their games are $150 now as of June this year. They had to up their prices, and I understand why. I mean, if you are buying games of this size, like dungeon crawlers, I think I compared to some people that were, I think I saw some discussion of this online, people being like shocked that it's $150 for the game, but Descent was $175.
Right.
And I would put them as far as like, you might not have the physical structures. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. They may be not having the same kind of like 3D structures that this game has, but it still has the same feeling of a dungeon crawler.
100%. Yeah. No, they did a great job of making it feel like it was a 3D thing without having to worry about 3D elements and too much overlays and everything.
And after like the third or fourth time you build the staircase in Descent, you're like, okay, cool, it's a staircase. Like it's still fun, but like it doesn't like, you're not like, wow, it's so much more.
Yeah, the first time you build the maps. But we digress.
Yeah. The reason why I bring it up though is because I've seen people online complain about it, and I think for what it is and the value, the quality of the components, it's right on mark with other like $100 to $150 dungeon crawl games.
Agreed.
Sure, you could go wild with the expansions and the miniatures and all that, but I think even as a base game, there's a lot there.
Oh, absolutely. So all the expansions added was a couple of extra bots that you play as, an extra corporation to play against, and then the brass mags themselves, which are great content, but like, you don't need it. There's plenty of base content.
And depending on like how much time, we spend a lot of time playing. So if you spend a lot of time playing, I think there's a lot of value here. If you have other family issues, work issues, you got kids in the house, you only get 1 or 2 nights a month maybe, I think you only need the base game. You're not playing it like we're playing it more aggressively where we want to see everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think for the value, I think it's high, especially for a chip theory game like this. It's going to take you 90 minutes to 2 hours every time you play the game. Longer if you have a lot of brain burn or analysis paralysis happening.
Yeah, no, I've gotten to the table about a dozen times already. 100% high value for me.
And we're looking forward to it.
Definitely a high value, like a high price game, but worth it.
So where do you land with it as an overall score for you as a game?
So taking into account the low in accessibility, I'm going to pull a too many bones on this one, and I'm going to go with a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it's for me right now, not having played it solo, I would still rate it very high. I think it's at least right now at 8.5 or 9 for me right now.
Fair.
I think landing at an 8.5 right now, not having played the solo, I'm interested in trying it out, but it's an excellent game. I definitely can recommend this one. Yeah. For somebody looking into, especially even your first chip theory, because I do agree with you. I think it is not as difficult as some of their other games.
Yeah. Aside from Hoplomachus, it is their most accessible game. Yeah. I love it.
So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you're interested to find out more about it, we definitely recommend going to their website. This is one that you're going to usually, I think, only directly get it from Chip Theory.
The Chip Theory tends to only sell through themselves. However, if you are interested in picking this up, I know they're low on copies right now, but July 18th, I think? 15th?
Makes sense.
I think the 15th. They actually go live with their next Game Found, which is going to be additional bots, an additional corporation, probably more brass mags for me to add to my collection. But they're also doing a reprint of the game as well, which is what I was getting.
If you're going to be at Gen Con, who knows, they might have copies. I'm not sure.
Yeah, actually, definitely. Take a look at, they will be at Gen Con, so hopefully they'll have some copies of this.
Well, we're really excited to talk about this game. We love playing. We'd love to hear about your experiences with the games or questions you have. So go ahead and leave a comment here in the video. And if you did enjoy this, we ask that you like and even subscribe to see more of our content here on Owl Dragon Adventures. And with that, we wish you good luck on all of your board game adventures.
Thank you for joining us on ours.